Okay, today we finish up our brief look at dynamic web pages using ASP.NET. And what we're going to do is 3 examples, all kind of neat, all different in their own ways. The first example, we're going to do the following. This band goes on tours, right? And their management decides just to number their tours, tour 1, 2, 3, and maybe they want to look back and say, where did we go on tour number 2? So I'm going to have a combo box, or we call it a drop-down list. It's going to have all the numbers, and then when you press it, the full information about the tour is going to show up there. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is, and I've already loaded in the band database, we're going to drag this thing called the drop-down list to there. Okay, it's going to be kind of neat. A lot of times we go here and we press it and we type by hand stuff, but we're not going to do that this time. What we're going to do this time is we're going to take it from the actual database. This saves us a bit of time, right? So first of all, before I forget, enable postback and then choose data source. Hey, this is a different screen. Haven't seen this before. It's slightly different when you do it from this control. Select the data source. Don't have one, right? So we got to say new. We're going to use access database, and we're going to point to it. There it is right there. Okay, and then we'll press next. Here is where we got to pay attention. There's a lot of tables, right, in this database. This time we're going to pick the one that says tours. All right, and a lot of stuff here, but all I want is a tour number. That's it. Okay, and the tour numbers might be not like 1, 2, 3. They might have some other weird numbers. So that's, it's not as stupid as you think by just grabbing the tour number. Do I need anything else? Do I need that where thing? Not really. The only other thing I need to make sure I do over here is press this. Return only unique rows. Okay? So I only want, it's like when they go on tour, they might say, hey, we're on tour this, and here's where we are. Same tour, here's where we are. Same tour, here's where we are. So I just want the number once. And then I press next, and you can test it if you want. See, the tour numbers are not like 1, 2, 3. They've named them like that. And then we press finish. Okay, and we press OK, and that's the first step done. And we can stretch this out if you want, but the numbers aren't that huge. Okay, so that's the first step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a grid view. All right, and what we're going to do with this grid view, we're going to use it to filter only things that we want. All right, so we'll drag a grid view. Remember, we're doing it the new way, which I think is kind of cool, without having to do it in 2 steps. I'm just going to drag. Let me press enter here first, just to go down a little bit. And I'll grab a grid view, drop it there, okay, and choose a data source. We're going to do a new data source. And you might say, well, why don't you just use this one? Because that data source only connected to the one thing about the tour, right? We want to start fresh. I want to grab more stuff on this part, right? So I'm going to press new data source. I'll click that, press OK. We still go to this database. All right, and press next. This one here, we're going to grab more stuff. Okay, so first of all, I got to grab the tour, right? That's the information we want, obviously. And then we can decide, how much do we want? What do we want? Okay, so let's grab everything, but more than that, press the where. Okay, maybe you remember this from the last video. And we're going to do it based on tour number. That's going to be the magic number. And we're going to use a control to feed the computer the information we want, and it's the drop-down list. Okay, so that's what we're going to feed it from, and we're basically ready to press add. There's our SQL expression that we're going to use. We're going to press OK, and basically we're done. Now, you know what? If we wanted to, we could put it in order. Never use this button, eh? Let's press it for a second. What's going on here? We can sort by certain things, right? So we can sort it by tour number if we want, the city. There's all kinds of things you could sort by. Let's sort it by city, just to do something. All right, and then we press OK. Then you press next, and press finish. Okay, so basically you're done. Let's take a look at it and see what actually shows up. Okay, so we'll give it a run. So we're controlling it a different way this time. I could have used more enters now that I think of it. Look how close it is together. I'll pick tour 304. Whoa, tour 304. They go to a lot of places. Let's do another one. Tour 307. Only one place. Tour 308. 301. Not bad. 300. Okay, so very neat. And you notice that They're sorted by city. There's Bend, and someplace in the States, and then Eugene, Oregon, another. What was that one that had the lot? Okay, Pullman. Okay, so it is working. 302. I'm trying to remember the one that had tons of them. Okay, so you got a whole bunch of different examples here. Really cool. All right, Boise, B, D, F, F. So it's working. And that's our first example today of how you bind again a database and how you can access the information in a kind of a cool way with, you know, a drop-down box. We use radio buttons, so you're learning a lot of nice new features. Okay, on to our next cool thing that you can do when you get really good at making dynamic web pages. What I'm going to do here, and you see this on a lot of sites where they ask you to click on a date or put in some dates and it'll find stuff for you or look up information based on those dates. So I've already preset this up. I've got a couple of different words here with 2 text boxes, and then I've got a title here that says, you know, type in the date here or pick it from the calendar. Hey, what calendar? Well, we're going to grab it and we're going to use it. So over here on the left hand side are, you know, all the different controls that you can do. Let's grab a calendar, let's throw it in there, and you can change the look of the calendar. There's all kinds of different ones. Alright, so you might, yeah, I like that one. I'm going to press OK. Okay, now calendar set, and what we're going to do is we're going to program this calendar so that when I click on this, it's going to put the date in there automatically. That would be like the cool way to do it, right? So double click on this calendar and you go into the underground. Alright, I know it's not for some of you something that you feel comfortable doing, but in the underground what we're going to say is the following. If the text box that I'm going to put the date in right now is equal to nothing. That's how you say nothing with words, 2 quotes stuck together. Alright, now actually you need to write down 2 equal signs, which is kind of weird to get used to too if you've never done computer programming. Then you go squiggly line, and in there you tell the computer what you're going to do. And what I'm going to do is, in that text box, if this has nothing in it right now, it means that when you press the first date, that's going to be like the beginning date. So there it is, text box 1 equals, and I just wrote a calendar in there, right? Oh, there it is right there, calendar 1. Dot, and there's a thing called the date you selected. It's called selected date. All right, isn't that cool? All right, now the next choice is else, if, okay, and then now you write down the next part. So for this one, you would say, well, you know what? Do you have to say anything? Like if the first one's empty and then you put stuff in it, the next time you do it, the first one's not going to be empty. So there's something cool that you do in programming. You just say else, and then you go squiggly line, and then you write down text box 2.text equals calendar 1 dot selected date, squiggly line. Now, you might have noticed when I was typing that this was in kind of red. Alright, and the reason was, and this is a little bit complicated, this only wants you to have strings, which are things with quotes on it. And when you press the calendar, it has a bunch of numbers, but there's a way to put quotes on numbers even, and you use this special command. So that's kind of complicated and tricky, but that's what you got to do to make this first part of the program run. Now watch what it does. Okay, so you could type it in if you want, but watch, just press this, double click on that, there's the date and the time in there. It's kind of cool. Press this, date and time in there. So that feature now works. Now what I want to do extra is I want to press this button, and then what it does, it goes through all the database and it shows me whatever about this particular band. In this case, it might be their journal entries from a certain date to a certain date, and that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to grab a grid view, and we'll put it, let's see, where's the button? The button's down there. So we're going to put the grid view right around here, and it's going to involve some tricky stuff. So first of all, we don't have a data source, so we're going to have to create a new data source, and we're using a database. Okay, let me just check to make sure it's there. There it is, band database. Okay, so we'll go back and make a new data source, access database, that's good, press OK. We'll tell the computer where it is. Okay, and now we got to stop, and we're going to pick artist journal. All right, I think we picked it before, but if we haven't, okay, and we're going to press everything. It's not a big problem. Here's where it gets tricky again. We're going to click on the where part. All right, and this one's going to be different because it's going to involve two steps. We're going to say between this and that. Haven't done that kind of stuff before, so watch. So you press column, and we're picking journal date, remember? And we've always pressed equal. Well, this time we're going to say greater than or equal to, and then you say it, the control. So the first text box is going to be like the first part of it. So for the first text box, we're going to be greater than or equal to whatever the number is in there. And then the second text box, we're going to be less than or equal to whatever that is, and squished in between will be whatever the possible answers are that we're looking for. Okay, so that's the first expression. And we're not done. Stay in here, stay in the same spot. All right, journal date again, but this time less than or equal to. Okay, the control source, and it's text box 2. Pretty weird, eh? And then you got to add that. So the computer's going to combine both of those expressions into one, and that's going to be our heavy-duty thinking, our filter. That's the fancy word for this, for what we're going to do. Then we're going to press OK, and we seem to be good there. Press next, finish, and it's in there. Okay, now I had to pause the recording because the data that I have for this example, it's from March. Like, so if you're looking up for stuff, it's way back in March 2005. So when you run this program, it gives you the date that you're running it. So you would have seen, for instance, December or whatever, 2011, 2012, whatever the current date is. So I had to press these back arrows like a million times to get back into March. So let's pretend, I hope I can find something that actually exists. I'll double click here, which means I'm looking for something from Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2005, and all the way to, I don't know, let's go to about October 28th. And look at that. It shows you all the results for that. And actually, you didn't even really need this button. The instant you pressed this, it went straight to here. This could have been what we call an auto postback button if this didn't work, but it wasn't necessary. So that's kind of another neat feature where you're now using the calendar to say, give me information between this and this. And you're starting to see the real power of how all that neat stuff you see on the internet happens, and you're doing it yourself for real.